really going on back again with another episode. This is season 4, episode 3. As always, before we get into the podcast, be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts. That includes Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at WRGO Pod. Be sure to like and subscribe on all of our streaming platforms. That includes YouTube, where you can watch our videos and custom shorts. That also includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and now, for the few people, Amazon Music. So be sure to like on that platform as well. Mackenzie and Henry, how are you all?
Doing well, doing good.
We're running late because of Mackenzie.
Oh,
Oh, God. Don't start with me. Don't start.
I just wanted some energy. I'm just
Yeah.
It's Sunday. I'm chilling. It was a cool day.
Yeah.
Indeed. So as of recording, we are recording this on Sunday, November 19th, and we are going to get right into it. We're going to switch the programming around a little bit. Usually we start with food for thought, but this time we are going to start with heads up. If you have been somewhat on Twitter or on Instagram at all this weekend, the biggest story that we have seen has been the lawsuit and then settlement revolving around Diddy and Cassie. So essentially this week on, I think it was Thursday, Henry had notified the chat, to which we were both shocked that essentially Cassie had filed a federal suit against Diddy alleging rape and physical abuse. A couple days later, I think it was almost as early as one day as the filing was kind of processed, they had reached a settlement over an undisclosed figure. Initially in the lawsuit that I had read, Cassie and her lawyers were asking for $30 million in damages and claims. So a couple quotes that we've kind of pulled since the announcement. Cassie has said, "I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms that I have some control of. I want to thank my family. Fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support." Diddy has since said, "We have decided to resolve this matter amicably. I wish Cassie and her family the best. Love." I don't really know where to kind of start about this, but I think Henry and I had kind of had a very interesting conversation.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I called both of you all separately.
So the first question is, how much money do y'all think they settled it for?
Well, before they
How much money do y'all think he really paid? We gotta at least take guesses on it.
My guess is that it was north of 30.
I was gonna say it was over 30 because
I think it was north of 30.
In the lawsuit somewhere it mentioned that someone maybe asked for this earlier. I don't know, or someone tried to give that's where I was confused between. Well, not really confused, but yeah, it just was a lot of detail.
I think she got paid at least $100 million. I know she did.
Why are we chasing?
I definitely do.
We all agree it was north of the figure. We all agree it was north of the figure.
Oh, definitely way more than 30 million. I honestly stand tall at least $100 million because that was crazy. That was crazy. And people believe that. I believe that. And you know what? At the end of the day, what I think is public opinion matters a whole lot more than whatever you want to come up with. And as quickly as he settled, he was whatever your number is, call me up, please. I will put this away. I definitely feel like 100 million. I
think the quick settlement, and then I think because a lot of people were saying, why is she going about it in court this way versus this way? I think from what I have heard from lawyers, and I think this is a case in both of crimes of sexual abuse and physical abuse, that cases involving sexual assault are extremely difficult to prosecute, because essentially what the court does, if there's not kind of like an immediacy and immediate evidence, and that always doesn't happen with sexual crimes, that the court essentially pins it as a he said, she said, and the process of convicting someone for that is actually very, very difficult. That's just, I think, to level set in terms of why Cassie might have chosen to go about it this way. Because I think there's a reality that these crimes are actually very difficult to process in terms of actually getting a judicial penalty as in terms of jail time. I think that's just level setting. I think that's like needed information for people to have, of like, why is she choosing only the financial? Like, people usually do not go to jail for rape and sexual assault. That's just like the sad reality of how our judicial system works. But I think, Henry, to kind of pivot on your conversation, I think you and I were kind of revolving around what does power and what does success and what does money kind of lead to. But then I think you and I had an interesting conversation on kind of what accountability looks like 2 days after our conversation. Do you think you have a better handle on what that is? Because I think I still don't. And I think I have kind of some hypocrisy in what accountability looks like for me. And I think we talked about that.
In both like my conversation with you and with Mackenzie, the parallel was morals versus like personal interest. And when I kind of think about this, and I laugh because when this case came out, the lawyer or somebody on Diddy's camp vehemently denied these crimes. That means in no way, shape, or form do I acknowledge that this happened. And then for them to, what was the word they used? No, I want to make sure I'm being very particular here. It was
resolve it amicably.
Amicably. That word means like peacefully, no issue, nothing. So like when we use words, they have connotations, meanings, so on and so forth. So for me, I'm kind of confused on what happened with the settlement and how it happened so fast. And I'm curious to know, is this the fastest settlement that has happened in the U.S. history? Because that was like not even a real, I don't want to say 48 hours, but it happened very quickly because the settlement, like per my knowledge, came out Friday, early Saturday morning.
Yeah, like Thursday, Friday.
So it's just like, one, me knowing how stories like this exist for like short periods of time already, like you just said, the act of accountability, and then the fact that he settled it so long, news stories are gonna kind of die out by, let's just say, midweek next week. So he kind of scapegoats this situation very easily unless more stories come out. So what accountability looks like in this situation is confusing to me. But again, to my point of like morals versus personal interest, I think he is concerned about his personal interest. So to Mackenzie's point, he was like, he did what he had to do to resolve this very quickly. And I guess with me reading the lawsuit, I'm a little curious. I want to know how it's actually settled. Because let's say he threatened this woman or, did something very malicious, and
which for context is in the legal filing, which it's, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He blew up someone's car. That's so
allegedly.
I don't know how that's where I'm curious.
I mean, I'll say this. I'll say this. As you said, I think it is clear that, or Noah, you said, just explaining the difference between a civil suit and a criminal suit, because it was, I guess, technically it was probably always going to end in a settlement, no matter how much it was. But I think that I can only assume that at the end of the day, she declined the money because it was just in the sense of, I need to tell my truth. You're not going to silence me. I don't care. I'm probably going to take the money or whatever. And I don't want to put words in her mouth.
Be ignorant.
Go ahead.
Because how Noah started the conversation, if you're on Twitter, every, let's just say, N-word was on Twitter. Like, she's just trying to get a payday. That's all she wants is a payday. But like, if we like logically think about it, it's a civil suit, so she's gonna get paid anyway. But yeah.
I mean, or not. Or not. Like,
right. He could have kept denying, and it would have been a long, drawn out thing, and he would have.
That's why I said, let me be ignorant. Why didn't she let it play out if she just wanted to tell her truth and she wanted him to reap what he's sown and whatever? Like, why did she?
I don't know why she didn't let it play out.
I think what frustrates me, I think, about how we treat this and so many other things is that I think people try to take the grief or take the process of grief from someone else and try to say, well, I'm processing it this way, therefore you have to process it this way. And at the end of the day, I encourage folks to actually like read the filing. It's really, really sad and really, really dark. And I think if you read the filing in terms of what structures allegedly Diddy had set up to be able to abuse Cassie, like at the end of the day, something tragic has happened to her. And for people to then say, like, hey, why is she doing this? Why is she doing that? It doesn't matter. She's processing her grief and her trauma however she chooses to. And if you have a problem with that, so the fuck what? That's how she is choosing to deal and address with her trauma. And I think too often we try to say, hey, this terrible thing happened to this person. Why are you then going about it this way versus saying, hey, Diddy, let's actually direct our questions to you or to your inner circle, to all of the other people who are execs at Bad Boy or the people who have worked with you for over 20 years. What have you known? Because I think even when it relates to R. Kelly, we have yet to really ask questions. We've asked the questions of R. Kelly, but of those who are intimately around him for 15 plus years. Jay-Z, you did an album with him in 2004. That's 10 years after alleged stuff happened. What did you know? And I think we have yet to really like connect those dots and hold others accountable and like, hey, what did you know?
But like
even simple questions like that.
That's where I'm gonna say, like, I'm not gonna throw nobody on the bus here, but like a lot of people just don't care, especially Black men.
I think it's like what you said before, the self-interest. The self-interest is always more important. Everyone is looking out for self. You know, it's about self-gain, because even if you do know, are you going to put your career on the line to essentially stick your neck out for someone else? And if you don't have that moral compass, if you don't have that, I guess, identity about yourself, then no, you're not. And it continues even after this story. Like, this was an explosive story, but how quickly it went away. Do I think that his close people that we always see him with are gonna stop hanging out with him? His girlfriends, are they gonna stop hanging out with him?
Oh, you funny.
No, but that's real. That's real.
Are
that's
they?
real.
No, I mean, give it maybe 2 or 3 months. It'll lay low, but then like in a couple months, we'll see it happening, and everybody just going about their day. Like,
no, what? I agree with what she's saying. I said she's funny because she said girlfriends on purpose because she's talking about a specific person.
I mean, but that's no, but then even then,
I can't.
I'm sorry to make a serious moment funny, but I'm laughing.
I'm just gonna say this because I really want to be team woman. I really
am. Get some stuff off her chest.
No,
but you're asking a necessary and real question.
Yes, girl, you cannot be with, and it's like you cannot.
A real question that needs to be asked,
girl.
And I'll say this because it's not just men who play a part in this society and this thought process. Women are also, when you see it happening and you're not saying anything, or you're still going around with it, because how many people that are in his circle that are women that I cannot believe, if this was happening over multiple decades at this point, you didn't know nothing. That's impossible. And I just feel like as a woman, as like, you know what it is, you know what it's like. Women are always, I don't know any woman that really hasn't been assaulted, to be completely honest. So you identify with that, and you see that happening to another woman, and you really just keep it pushing. Like, that's just so crazy to me. And I'm not saying that it's all on them and they didn't say anything, but it's just like, you.
But it's another worthy question that has to be asked.
Yeah, what is going on?
And I think
this
it goes back to Mackenzie's, or all of our point, I guess, like self-interest.
Yeah, that's all it has to be, because I don't know what else it could be other than you're looking out for yourself.
Yeah, and I think when I thought about this, when I was putting this together, I think the thing that overall, I think in terms of the long arc, it actually made me like more disheartened towards, I think, actually what accountability looks like. Because when I thought about this, for some reason, the first thing that I thought of was like Dr. Dre. And for people who don't know, Dr. Dre has a long history of like violent physical abuse towards women. And there's a reason why, I mean, for my mother, ever since she first learned of this about Dr. Dre way back then, she has never liked Dr. Dre. And you wouldn't know that based on, I think, how the culture and how corporations have openly put their arms around him. And I think that kind of gives a bad history that I think hip hop and culture need to kind of figure out, and that the history of hip hop cannot be written without talking about men who have done terrible, terrible things. And none of them have seemed to have to pay account for it. And I think what is the most shocking and damning about it is that often the violence comes towards other women in the industry, whether you look at Cassie, Michelet, Megan Thee Stallion, Lil Kim, like all throughout history is just other men rappers abusing women who are also in the music and entertainment business. And I think there is a larger conversation and larger questions that need to be asked, not only of those people, but the others who hang around them. And that's never happened. That article's never been written in terms of, hey, Kendrick Lamar, you're intricately linked with Dr. Dre. What would you say to a woman, or what would you say to your daughter when she finds out that he used to beat Michelet? Mm-hmm. Those are the questions that need to be asked if I think we want to actually get real about this. It's not only just holding the individuals accountable, but holding the others who are so linked to them accountable. I don't think that will ever happen, but it's just like, it's really frustrating for me as someone who loves music. Like, it can't. I digress, but that's a really big problem.
But no, I will say also, I recently saw on Twitter of how powerful these men really are, because there are people who are trying to write those stories, but then they'll get shut down because they're so connected with the media, and they'll shut a story down. And I don't know, like, obviously most of us follow Philip Lewis on Twitter, and watch this. And I still went back to my Twitter page. When he tweeted out the story, it got way more retweets. But when the New York Times tweeted out the story, it definitely had, I feel like, significantly less retweets and engagement compared to like other stories that other breaking news stories. And I don't know, like, that could just be a random accusation, or don't sue me. But it just seemed odd. And I also went to BET's account. I follow several BET executives. No post. And I think post. The Soul Trains Award are coming up, and that's all they've been focusing on. Like, how do you do that? And also, the people that I follow are women. You see the story. You're on digital. You're not like.
I think BET will be a very interesting barometer for this.
No, because I literally, me and Noah was talking. I don't know. Black entities or corporations, or, you know what I'm saying, where we exist in these big conglomerate spaces, they're not gonna speak bad against this man. He's too interconnected.
And that's sad. And I think let's call a spade a spade. That's sad. Like, and I think because that doesn't happen, this stuff keeps happening.
Yeah, basically. So it's just like, I mean, we can meet back up in 20 years, talk about the same thing, different names.
I mean, I would say maybe in the next 6
months. So
like
we might as well just pencil it in.
Mackenzie, you know where our conversation was going with, like, the ideal of patriarchy? That's what, like, kind of institutes all of this.
Money.
I mean, I think it's a bunch of things. I think
it's a bunch of things. And I'm glad you brought this up, Henry, because then money would segue us into Kiki and her baby father. Because the conversation is, I think that money does enable men to be these things, these angry creatures and beings, but also, like, men without money can also be a part of that too. So I don't want to think like, oh, it's only these rich guys who's doing it. It's like, no, it's people who are that established either. I think it's just something with men and the patriarchy, but I think the patriarchy still exists without money being the main factor.
No,
yeah,
go ahead. I agree with that. I don't think anybody would say the idea of patriarchy is instituted within us being an American citizen. I don't know about other countries because I haven't, whatever. Point in case, growing up as a man, you start to learn and condition yourself to operate in this world. And like how we were speaking about before, moral grounding. If you aren't taught to respect a certain moral code, and then, like, you go out into the world and be like, you choose what you know what I'm saying, have respect for, and then let's say you a self-brought up person and you just was a dog and out here really getting it and had to, like, not trust people, and a lot of people messed you up. Like, these things, I think, like, kind of condition us to be the people that we are. So to speak more into, like, the Keke Palmer situation, I guess, where he was not, like, the breadwinner and she was, that's him still, like, aiming to control the situation by doing what he did, in my perspective, because, like, what else? You can argue his family background and history, and that's what he saw, and so that's what he, like, instituted, which agrees with the ideal of patriarchy. those men through every generation were conditioned and brought up similar ways with similar ideologies. I think this generation of men, not the air quotes, I mean no harm, but men, they will be introduced to a broader perspective of what being a man and being masculine and all of that stuff means. But I feel like prior to now, the ideal of what being a man is has always been the same or very close to like bravado, macho, take care of the bills, woman submissive, blah, 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 hyper masculinity. So
The
like,
funny thing is, I agree with you, and yet I don't think anything will change because I think the biggest problem is, and I think once again it stems from the top, and that I think this country needs to figure out how we can better address sexual abuse and physical abuse. And I think as someone who knows someone who works in a prosecutor's office and literally focuses specifically on domestic violence issues, he has told me, like, yeah, the biggest problem is that once again, it's a he said, she said, and also there's an added fear from the person who is being abused that at the end of the day, if they don't go to jail, they still might have to live with this person or be around this person and that just will only continue the cycle of abuse further and further. And I think, then it gets to a legal problem, it gets to a social problem, and there are all these other economic problems. And we keep trying to, I don't even know how we're trying to solve it, but it's like, it's a multi-layered approach in terms of making sure that this person is safe. As a country, we don't do anything to actually like guarantee that. It's just, we're going to try to prosecute this and it doesn't work. And then you might have to go live with the same person again, who was only abusing you. And we need to figure something out that's better than that, because as of now, we're not really offering any solution towards these problems. But I digress. Mackenzie or Henry, anything else you want to add on these subjects? I know we're starting off a little deep.
I mean, there are like organizations and things that try to like bring light to these issues. So I don't want to like totally ignore those efforts. I think the bigger problem maybe is like the support those people receive. And I guess that goes back to the self-interest thing. Everybody, especially in America, lately I was talking to one of my mentors, Professor Miner, the other day, and she was in Italy like for travel, and she was telling me how, one, the designer is way cheaper, but two, she was saying how they don't really prioritize work, and they're having 2 to 3 hour lunches with their family and like doing that thing. But in America, we prioritize capitalism and getting wealthy and materialism over everything. So I think that in the ideal of patriarchy kind of intertwines, which in case, to Noah's point, is always going to be an issue. Everybody's engaged at their own level of self-interest instead of like looking at the bird's eye view of how do we resolve world problems. Like even Biden, which we're about to talk about in our food for thought, like him running for president is for his own self-interest. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Why would you say that?
It's not for the betterment of America. He's 80 or so.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think you have to be running for president is very ego driven, but I think there's levels. I'll say that.
I think he justifies it in thinking that, I mean, we can go ahead and talk about this of like the Republican Party being the Republican Party. They're not having a strong member. So I'm the best thing that this country can do. That's probably how it's processing in his head, honestly.
If he thinks he's the best thing he has to offer for this country,
who else is a up and coming Democrat?
High power Democrat? That's the problem. We're not engaged politically.
Oh, Kamala. He could hand over the torch to Kamala.
He really,
or rather, she couldn't present herself as willing to do it, and that's. I think if I were Biden, I would say, don't hate me because I won.
Is he really still a part of the conversation?
Trump?
Really? Yes. Like, isn't it?
Our agenda item says Trump leads Biden for the
is he legally?
Should we be worried?
Is he like really
talking about legally? Didn't we just talk about power?
Is he a part of the, or is this just like in general? Because I'm like, can he for real be on the ballot? For real?
We just talked about power, money, politics, and connections, right?
Yes. Okay, so let's just get into it. Because we're blowing away half. We just talked about like loosely half of our food for thought without actually like talking about it. Okay, so the first thing is Biden has a historically low approval rating. As of a news poll that I read literally today by NBC News, Biden's poll approval rating has declined to 40%, the lowest of his presidency. The new low number has been impacted by a majority of voters disapproving of his handling of foreign policy and the Israel-Hamas war. An interesting note, among voters from 18 to 34, 70% disapprove of his handling of the situation. Instead of talking about like how we got here and why, because we ask ourselves that every single time we talk about something like this, I'm going to ask you both a question, and you all don't know this. If you were someone on Biden's staff and he said, Henry McKenzie, you all are my senior advisors, give me one thing that you think will help me in 2024, what do you think I should do? I have my answer. I'm going to wait.
Pay my student loans or buy me a house, please. I think, honestly, just pay off my student loans, non-negotiable. It has to be an executive order.
Already denied that.
Nope. There's a difference.
No,
executive order. He's got it.
Executive order, non-negotiable. I
do
want it done now. Or you could buy me the house of my choosing. And if I was you, I would take off the student loans, because if buy me something where I have equity within this country. That's really what it comes down to. Because the thing is, I feel like student loans is such a burden. And without student loans, I feel like a lot of people who look like me and a lot of people who just have student loans can also then start buying homes. I really do feel like that's the main burden. And, it's about buying equity in this company. That's why I said either student loans or buy me a home. But you're going to buy me something major. Or what is it? 40 acres and a mule?
Well, that's not realistic, but we'll take your first two answers for 100. Henry, what would you advise Biden do?
Oh, you didn't hear me? He should drop out because he's not gonna be able to get the loans. And
and then he would say thank you for your service.
Hypothetical. This was like if we was on the staff.
Yeah, he said thank you for your service.
No, but for real, like the student loans are literally the only thing. That's what he ran on. That's what we want. And this is the question I have for Noah, the like political person on the podcast, is I'll see Biden's put this much money into student loan forgiveness, this much money. How does that get allocated? But nonetheless, like he needs to like just a certain like if you have $60,000 and less in student loans, federal government has to clear it or some shit like that, whatever the executive order could be. It needs to just be an amount that can get clear, because per my knowledge, he's already given money toward student forgiveness.
No, I would have to say
I don't know.
No, I wouldn't say it if you have 60. It'd be like, I'm wiping out this amount of people from everyone's student loan debt. It needs to be something like that, period. Everyone needs to benefit from this.
That's the reverse. That's what I'm saying. 60.
Let me ask this though.
What I just said.
Let me ask this though. If a Republican candidate came in and said that he would wipe out the debt,
I'm closing it out because that's what's going to happen. And I'm closing my computer because that's what 100%.
Well, I guess we don't have to talk about politics and who we would vote for, but
that's what's going to happen. Mackenzie, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
It's not. This is still the hypothetical room. We're still in the hypothetical.
A Republican would never do that.
But I'm just saying.
You don't think one of them little Republicans gonna come to it?
I think it would be smart. I think it would be smart, but it's not. Do I think that they would actually say that?
They would never do that. They would never do that. You think they're going to give Black people free stuff to get an education or take up? Please, no, get the hell out of here.
You're right. They're gonna codify that. They're gonna codify it. They're gonna be like, if you live in this district, or
they wouldn't do it at all. Their version of that is
I don't know.
Okay, so you all, I think, are hitting the nail right on the head. I had 3 things kind of written down. One was he basically needs to executive order the plan that he proposed in the Supreme Court block. He just needs to just sign that shit and figure it out later in terms of, I would almost say, to try to make it more realistic, to what Mackenzie says, I wasn't thinking about it in terms of just everyone. I actually think that's a better idea, because then you can get the case of it's more equitable. So I would say, whether it's, because initially it was 10 for just, people like us, or 20 if you got a Pell Grant. I would say if you can figure out a way to make it 15 for everyone, even if you put a finance cap on it, say if you're making under five, initially it was 120,000. Shit, I'd raise it up to like 250. Impact as many people as literally possible. The second thing that I actually feel like is more realistic, not more realistic, I would give everyone a stimulus.
How much?
When I wrote this down, it had to be greater than the number that Trump.
Oh, Noah.
I said 15.
No, how much the stimulus?
Why are we getting a stimulus?
I want a number. How much?
1,500. That's what I wrote down.
It could be 3. I was thinking more like 5.
That's not realistic. I tried to be like I tried to be somewhat realistic.
But you know what? I only say that because how we kind of soft mentioned, we've seen how much money they can give to X, Y, and Z, to all these other people.
So I think
the money is there. It's a choice of whether or not to give it out.
If y'all wanted me to shut up about the Republicans giving us the student debt, y'all need to shut up about this, because why are they giving us because
they care about us. They care about us as
we're just advisors. We're just advisors. I'm saying, hey,
are we still in the hypothetical?
Yes, because I know, because I think
if I okay, hypothetically, I'm biting.
Look, like it makes sense. Why not do it?
Again, how does that help?
Okay, then pay everybody's health care. No, I don't know.
Henry, look,
that's even more radical.
If you're asking how it helps, I will tell you specifically how it helps.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I think and I think even what Mackenzie would say is, I think, hey, you have to give people something. You need to give them something to it. As of now, the student loan got fucked up. The voting a lot of stuff has been effed up. And I would even say, outside of your control, you had no control over Hamas doing what they did and Israel firing back. You had no control over Russia deciding, hey, we want Ukraine. You had no control over taking over a country that just happened to have COVID. Like, that shit is outside of your control. However, you need something to attach your name to. And as of now, you don't have that.
Have nothing. You're right. I agree with you, but I ain't mean to cut you off. On some just you the political guy, but I guess I'm becoming him tonight. So on some me being the president, and then he can't just give money out, per my knowledge. It has to go.
I mean, it's debatable, but
it gotta go through the world.
It gotta go through Congress and all that, right?
Executive order.
What?
I'm sorry, but
no, and the funny thing is, Mackenzie and I are on the same page. It's and I think to Biden's credit,
you're telling me he needs to just use an executive order power to show the American people.
And I say that because you just said he was 80 years old. So my thing is, if I am 80 years old, who really care? I'm
or I wouldn't even say that.
Actually, let me not. That was rude.
We're not speaking. Look, Biden. No. Biden Harris 2024 all day on this podcast.
But look, time is running out. He only has but so much time to do something. He does not have time to go to Congress and put together a plan. You don't have that. You do not have that type of time. People are pissed, and the only way to get them back, because you will lose if this trend continues to happen. You have the voters who would naturally support you. You just have to get them out. As of now, younger Black voters and younger Hispanic voters don't have that thing that is going to drive them there. We could rely on Roe, but that's just kind of a general concept thing that is happening.
Wait, what you mean rely on Roe?
I mean, the talking point kind of writes itself. Hey, if you elect a Republican and a Republican Congress, they're going to adopt a national 6-week abortion ban.
So to that point, I don't think they're amplifying the problems of what's happening in America and why this election is.
Who is they?
No, the funny thing is, I think they are. No, I think they are. I think
where and when? No, we just had elections a week or two ago.
Yeah, and voters voted to literally affirm abortion. That's not the issue. That's not in Ohio and other places.
I guess I'm talking about in Atlanta, where this really matters.
It matters all over. If it was
I mean, yeah, sure, but I live
it
in
would
a
be
damn. It's
everywhere.
on the cusp. Both of y'all live in
National.
progressive states.
I don't
Both of
think it
y'all.
has anything to do with that. I don't think location has anything to do with this. I literally think
National.
I think it does because if let's say I got a girl pregnant right now and we didn't want to have a baby, the closest place near is like Virginia, I think, and I think they just locked that shit.
It is for him. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
How far is Virginia? Oh my God.
Like 8 hours.
I would still say that I mean, like I said, the abortion thing is already a talking point, and there's nothing that like
crazy.
I guess my question, I guess, you know how, remember when we talked about news last couple podcasts ago and how different demographics. So you're in Mackenzie, New York, you're in DC, different local politics, what talking points, issues, what's actually getting spoken about. I can guaranteely say, like, unless I'm just being oblivious, abortion and the rights of that such are not like that's like people forgot about that.
No, people did
No,
not.
they have not. No, they have not.
And where I'm talking about from my stance.
No, maybe that's also because you're a guy, but nah.
Or rather, it's not important until it comes up, and then you realize the gap.
Okay.
The fact that you said the closest place for me is
tonight.
Virginia, there's definitely people sweating out there. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think Mackenzie and I would unity say, I'm speaking for her too. I think the problem is that Biden needs to do something that hits people immediately. Yeah. He doesn't have time to do some policy rollout that like waits and stalls out. He needs to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and you're going to see the direct impact in a month or in 2 weeks. He doesn't have time.
Stimulus or student loans.
He needs something.
Student loans. Like my vote is no. We all got to make a vote. Take a stance. Mine is student loans. Henry, what's your cause? If you're on the advisor board,
I would vote stimulus. I'd vote stimulus.
Stimulus of how much?
I'd say 1,500, only because then you're getting voters who have not accrued student loans because they didn't go to college, and I think that's even more important.
That's a big okay. Put in
my PR hat on. Then you bought votes. I'd be like, oh, so you pay $1,500 for a vote?
So what? So what?
Now you buying votes.
We pick winners and losers.
I guess student loans.
So then, Mackenzie, I'm putting my PR hat on. So what's a tax break then for millionaires?
It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yes, it is. We're just changing the wording. We're helping people who are rich versus help. You think if I'm a billionaire and
they would try to sue him for buying votes. Henry, what was your thing? Henry, what's your thing?
I said student loans to be clear, but like
I make a good case. I make a good case.
No, they would definitely they trying to impeach the man right now. They would definitely figure out a way to
I feel like at the end of the day, we're gonna do all of this and nothing's still gonna come of it, honestly.
Well, historically, a Democrat is not a Democrat.
Oh, why are we wasting our time? I'm just like, what?
Republican
never run it again. Like, can we just move, like, just get him out of my face? That's where I am.
Okay, so that's a good point, Mackenzie. So like can we just no, Mackenzie, on some real stuff, like after this Biden-Trump back and forth that's gonna happen for at least like
a year.
Yeah. Once they move out the way, who are the
question mark because
I have names, but I work in politics, so that's different from my perspective. But I mean, I work in this.
You know what? Like it always be. Maybe it'll be a shining star coming out of nowhere.
Maybe so. I mean, Obama came after you would have never thought Obama coming.
That was like a once in a lifetime thing.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You know,
I mean, I'm more inclined to agree with you, Henry. I think he was like a generational type of candidate, but I mean, it always, if you think about it,
if you really want to talk about money and power and powers that may be, them motherfuckers fighting to get their regular life back.
I mean, that
1%.
I mean,
the
funny thing is that I actually think that we're kind of like, not that like people who are rich don't have as much power, but I think people, and this is what I think people like don't want to talk about, is that I think Trump got elected because Republicans were so pissed off with like the average Republican that they were just like, fuck it, I'm going to vote for this guy. And I think increasingly, people are going to realize that our politics is only going to get more unpredictable, because I think people hate people in Congress and people hate people in power. And I think as we keep having more elections, it's not going to be your typical, I was a congressperson and I was a senator, then I was a governor. I think it's just going to be more people from outside, because the average person, doesn't matter what social economic level, what education level, y'all have college degrees and y'all are like, yo, fuck them people. So I mean, I think it's like even someone who
Well,
has a high school
wouldn't
degree
you
all
have
at the
to
same
then
point.
gain the support of the party? Because I guess like that, for me, I feel like Trump was a backlash to Obama. Now, I don't work in politics enough.
But I think two things can be true. I think it was a backlash to Obama, but I also think they said, you standard old typical Republicans who lobby for tax breaks that I don't ever get because I'm not rich. I think it's like, if it's the 1%, then apply that. All Republicans are not a part of that 1%. And I think that's the thing that Republicans have yet to wrap their head around, is that like, hey, your average voter is not some typical, white collar business person. It's literally like a person who is making like average type of money. How are you talking to those people too? Like, and they haven't figured that shit out yet. And that's why Trump won, because they were like, oh, I fuck with what he's saying. He's saying fuck the establishment. Yeah, fuck them people.
Well, fun way to like transition. Y'all heard The Rock might be trying to run for president?
No, I don't want to
No,
talk
he's
about
not. That's bullshit. I'm not even like taking that seriously.
Okay, so Mackenzie Eric Adams, New York resident, go.
I mean, I don't have much to say. I haven't read up on the story other than they're looking into his staff's emails. They confiscated items. And my thing is like, New York City politics is really crazy. I really do feel like this is like Gotham City. Like, what is even happening? Because I've always called, and I'll say this because I feel like a lot of the stuff be just playing blatantly in our face. But I always thought that it was a joke that he's always in the mix, and he's always like, where's this flossiness coming from?
He's the
And it's
mixy
a
mayor.
joke. And it's right in our face. Like, it's right in our face, and he just been getting along or whatever. But they haven't proven anything, so who knows? He could be just like a Trump, just on the next ballot, and nobody really cares, and we still vote these people in, and it is what it is. So,
And at least I think,
who is Eric Adams?
he's the mayor of New York City. He's a black mayor.
America's most
He's like the
mixy mayor.
second black. I want to say the second black mayor of New York
Mm-hmm,
City.
you got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was a former Brooklyn borough president. He's a former police officer. And yeah, he's the current mayor. He's been charged. Well, I don't even think he's been charged, but the FBI is looking into some of his campaign funds, basically. And it's kind of low-key getting worse by the day. So yeah.
And he's also just cutting budgets left and right for like,
yes. Oh yeah. So he is
shit.
he officially closed this Brooklyn libraries on Sundays, which is actually so crazy because he was, or I don't know if it was him specifically, but before he came in, they were trying to close the Brooklyn library significantly, and then Jay-Z had the exhibit. And I think when you go into the Jay-Z exhibit at the Brooklyn Library, it really brought a lot of people to the libraries. And I know that they have not seen that many people or that amount of people in years, probably decades. So then now closing the Sunday library, it's just like, what are the priorities of the city? Because when I did go tour the libraries, people are in there using the checking out books on the computers, doing work. There's kids in there in the children's library. Like, it was still very active within the community. So it's just disappointing to see that happen, especially if you're then being questioned about funds and campaign.
And to your point, Mackenzie, libraries, what we don't talk about enough, libraries are often a tool of the less socioeconomically mobile, yes. Where if you don't have functional internet, or if you don't have the ability to just simply buy books, you go to a library. Like, there is an economic component to a library that people like might not think about. Of like, people go to a library. Some people are going not by choice, but out of necessity. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the best. Okay, so now we are going to move. Oh, did we want to talk about the Trump "Are we worried" thing? I think we covered that. I really do, but I'm not making an executive decision here. Okay, all of a sudden, well, be worried, people. Trump is coming. That's all I'll say. Now we're going to go to give
us mother people would maybe like never mind, whatever. I think it's because of the war. That's like what's really hurting Biden. I hope maybe.
I think it is.
He's giving so much money. What else are people like expecting?
But like, okay, wouldn't Trump do the same?
Trump,
Exactly. That's why I'm like, well,
Trump
why
would
is
do
he
the
getting?
same.
Why do you think he's getting flack because of that
And
specifically?
that's the unfortunate thing that like he's gonna take a lot of Trump slack. Like let's say how
Oh,
the
from yeah.
economy is shit right
Yeah, I
now.
mean, Biden's not doing anything any other president would not do. I think that's like just a levels setting. I don't think he's doing something different than Trump, or like I'm gonna be keep it above. He's not doing anything Obama would not have done, and I like
Unfortunately, we live in a democracy. Anyway, here's a
wholeheartedly believe that. All right, so Henry dragged us back into food for thought, and I'm going to trail us back onto the road of heads up. So I'm going to give Mackenzie the opportunity to talk about a new show called Black Cake.
It's so good. So Black Cake is a book first. So I guess I do recommend people reading the book. I did not read the book though, but it's basically about this woman who is older and she's reflecting on her story. She changed her name, new identity. She was coming from Jamaica. She's mixed. Her dad is Chinese Jamaican, which was also interesting to me because I've always heard that there is an Asian community in Jamaica, but
Huge. Yeah.
I could never like I'm from the Midwest. I've never like my brain literally could never wrap around that
It's not
story.
called the West Indies for no reason.
Yeah, and I guess I just never made that connection. But her dad is Chinese and her mother is black or Jamaican. And she's recanting her story to her kids after she eventually passed away. But it's such a great story so far. Oprah is one of the
what
producers.
platform?
Hulu.
It's on Hulu. It's a weekly show, but there's enough episodes. I think there's like 4 episodes out now, but it's so good. And she's just telling her story. Even her husband passed, so he doesn't even know some of the stories that she's telling her kids. And I think it's just important to like, I don't know, live in your truth. I think it's just a great story of like telling your story when you are alive. Like, you know, it's also interesting. I say this because your parents have a life before you. And I think that that's the biggest thing that she's telling her story, and her kids are just could never see her outside of being their mom. It was she just had a whole nother life, and they were so shocked about that. So I think that was the biggest takeaway.
One thing I do want to flag, I feel like Hulu recently has, I think, like almost like taken the mantle in terms of like just producing like different stories across
Mhm.
like the Black diaspora. Like they've had this, they did Kindred, they did The Other Black Girl. There's a show that's based in the Dominican Republic called Dia de los Muertos, which deals with like Trujillo in the 60s. And I think like they've really done a good job of like, we're going to tell Black stories no matter like where they are. So I think it is cool that like the story touches on Jamaica and like we don't really like see stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. I have here a question mark. Tim Scott dropped out, Republican debate. I'm going to say quickly, neither of those things are actually worth concerning anything about.
Yeah, they're not.
Moving on. So Andre 3000 has dropped an album called New Blue Sun. He actually did a very interesting interview on GQ that I would suggest that everyone actually check out. Deals with kind of about like why he chose to do this, why he honestly doesn't feel like rapping anymore. I'm not going to spoil the interview, but I think it's interesting. Have you all listened to the album? I think I'm the self-proclaimed music nerd here. I have actually not listened to it.
I
I
did.
actually have listened to it. I didn't to it completely. I think there was like 2 songs left that I didn't listen to. But you know what? I thought it was I listened to the Calm app. I sometimes listen to
Yeah.
on my morning way to work, I listen to ambient music. So like I just kind of like hearing that type of vibe. I think it was very soothing. I think you should really submit it to the Calm app or some type of like meditation type of vibe. It's just very soothing, very chill, very nice music. I can actually see, and this is what I think is so cool about music and where we are right now is so many people are sampling stuff. I think that he's laid the foundation for people to sample this type of music from generations on generations on generations. It's very like a foundation type of music that I can hear people taking to do something else with it. But I think it was nice. So
Henry, you're from Atlanta. Have you listened?
Hello. No, I definitely listened. I I thought he was like trolling and was gonna drop at least a
No.
poem, something. But it was cool to listen to because I am attempting to learn the practice of meditation and yoga in the best ways that I can. And I think to Mackenzie's point, this would be a great album to just kind of unleash your mental. I was like, oh, this some real grown man. Like I can imagine myself on my big property in acres. When I'm older, I done crossed my legs and lit my, cigar and wine and chilling and just enjoying the lay of the land. They say that I feel like this was a mature album, and you can expect that from somebody like Andre 3000, who he was never big on the being a rapper and being gaudy and being out there and all that. He was more so just in tune with his craft and himself. And that's what I think a lot of people respect about him. So to Mackenzie's point, it maybe lays a foundation for how we're in that intermixed of new generation, whatever. It lays a foundation for new opportunities of people who maybe play these type of instruments or actually rap and have a more mellow tone vibe or whatever to enter the game.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting thing as someone who loves music is that I think I hope more people do this, not in terms of actually do this type of music, because I think at the end of the day, Andre 3000, he's put in a lot of time doing this. If you kind of have followed him, he's been playing the flute in Starbucks since 2013, just randomly. So this is not something that he just was oh, I woke up and I felt like dropping this. No, he's actually put in a lot of time on this. But I hope actually more artists as they age kind of feel the freedom and comfort to kind of pivot to what they actually are interested in. Where I think, to kind of spoil a piece of the GQ interview, even though I said I wasn't, he just kind of said, yeah, I feel like I don't have anything to talk about. And I think that's actually a thing that I feel like a lot of artists today, whether you're really old or honestly really young, they're talking about things that they think they have to talk about, not things that they actually want to talk about or are interested in. And I think collectively our music suffers because I think Andre 3000, the genuineness of his music, according to you all, comes across. I'm this is actually something that you wanted to do. And I think too often we don't have enough of this artist is making this type of song because they actually want to do this, not because, hey, I feel like this is where the culture is going, so I just have to make some watered down version of whatever Nelly song. I think we would all be better off for that.
And I will say also,
You're funny. You're funny.
I feel like as I'm older though, I do sometimes I just like to sit. I don't want to talk. Even when I watch, I think about sometimes TikTok videos, some of the best TikTok videos are no sound. They're just doing whatever I'm interested in. And I think that I don't know, just as you get older, I do feel like some things are better left unsaid. You don't just need to talk about everything. You can just
things can be shown, not necessarily described.
Yeah, with words. So.
Yeah.
Learning to appreciate things more. Great job.
Silence.
Great job.
All right. So apparently I didn't put this in the doc, but I'm going to assume this is true. Abbott Elementary is coming back in February.
Oh my gosh.
Question mark?
It's Sunday. We tired, but yes, no. Abbott Elementary comes back in February. Talking about, I'm gonna assume, Lord.
I didn't hear that.
You didn't really spell it out.
After they reached 148 days, one of the longest work stoppages in Hollywood history. Because you all know we had Maisha on earlier. Go check that episode out. The Mackenzie, you got a WGA.
Writers Guild of America.
Yeah. Oh, Writers
Guild.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were talking about the podcast. I was like, W.
Yes.
I know the podcast.
I was like, you mean WRGO? Oh
God. That they were on strike, and they reached a deal last month to where people can receive their residuals, I hope, as necessary. I didn't read into it, but point in case.
Hopefully we won't be here again, but.
Right, but because of that, we get a new Abbott Elementary that comes out in February. So that's great to hear.
And also, rap shit. Issa Rae's show on HBO is out now, and I love it. I don't care what nobody say. I am a fan of the show. I love it. It's starting.
I like it. I like it too. People I feel like hate it.
But we support all.
People were
what did Issa Rae say? We're rooting for everybody Black on this.
Yeah, but everybody don't be.
On this podcast, we're rooting for.
Oh yeah. On this podcast for sure. On this podcast for sure.
Penultimate, House Ethics Chair moves to expel George Santos from Congress. If you don't know basically who this is, I think it's hilarious. Just Google search George Santos and read what he's accused of. It's very, very funny and sad that this person is in public life. Now, for the most pressing question of all, as this is a podcast that deals with politics, entertainment, the interweaving of both. As we approach the season of thanks, I am now going to ask Mackenzie and Henry. Henry is questioning my lead up, but this is audio art. What is your favorite Thanksgiving side?
Ooh, mac and cheese, period.
Dressing, that's not a side.
How is that not that's not a side?
Mac and cheese is a topping. That's a starch.
No, that's a side.
You're wild.
Wait,
You're
vegetable.
wild.
Wait, so then what is a
no,
side?
no. Henry's forfeited his answer. He doesn't get to answer.
No. Y'all don't know meals properly.
When you go order stuff, the side is always mac and cheese. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about at a fast food restaurant where the protein is the main dish. If
so protein isn't the main dish here?
If we're talking about a meal,
turkey is the main dish on Thanksgiving.
Some type of nutrition, such as a vegetable and a protein.
Oh, but I like the side. That's my favorite thing. I don't really like turkey. If we talk about Thanksgiving,
I will say this:
the protein ain't a side. A side is like potato salad, yams, maybe,
yes, and mac and cheese. And mac and cheese is really the same thing.
Mac and cheese is a starch. That's a filler.
What's your side then? What's your side? Chicken wings?
Yeah, that ass.
Dressing?
I mean, that's a respectable answer, but
not stuffing though, because y'all Midwest and up north.
No, I definitely say dressing. Don't.
I say stuffing.
How did a question become so controversial? I don't even understand what's going on.
No, that's because, Henry, I think if we polled all right, boom. So actually, if you are watching this, please add us at WRGO Pod. I think Henry thinks that anything, I think Mackenzie and I are thinking your meat, i.e. your turkey, is your main.
That's
anything
not the main part of your meal.
But what is the main part of your meal then on Thanksgiving? What is the main?
Your starch is
no, that's weird. No, the meat is always the main.
I cook better than both of y'all, and that's a fact.
I don't believe that. I actually don't believe that.
Both of y'all have been to gatherings in which I've cooked. And
yes, okay, I have.
So and when you cooked, I never thought that my mac and cheese was the main dish. That don't make sense.
Your friend did eat something and she ate it and she said, "Oh my God, this is great." No,
I don't recall that. Now you're making up stuff. Let's wrap it up.
This is a very
stuff on a Sunday. Stop.
For those who are still listening to the podcast, if you've been to Henry's house, Henry, I have had your cooking. It is indeed good. Usually, Mackenzie and I, we'd come over on a Friday and we'd eat on Saturday. And because it's
gonna take long, it's marinated, it's moist, it's prepared.
Oh wait, Noah, what's your favorite side?
Mac and cheese. That's like the mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese is a starch.
It really is.
What are you, a fucking nutritionist now? Jesus.
Mac and cheese is a starch.
But what? No, I can't. No, I can't do it again. We're gonna go back down that loop.
We're going to release a poll, and I think. Henry, you might as well have said rolls or some shit. That's like the answer. I think you fucking say cranberry sauce. You might as well say that.
Those are sides. Rolls, cranberry sauce, dressing.
A roll is not even a side. That's not even included.
Those are sides.
No, stop. Because we're gonna go. Those are sides. I don't even know what you're talking about. How are those? We won't do it again.
Actually, boom. So boom. I'm. This is what we do usually after the podcast. We have our post planning meeting. What we are actually going to do, we are going to each tweet a picture of our plate, and we're going to see the pure and utter chaos.
Hey, no, I can't do that this year because my mom is going to Washington with my younger brother.
We'll see.
I thought you could cook. I thought you were the best cook here, though.
Yeah.
I'm not cooking for Thanksgiving.
Why not?
My plate probably would look better than all of y'all's. But Henry's not.
Then do it.
My mom's not going to be here.
So then do it.
I'm not participating in the plate.
Do it.
Excuses.
Your plate gonna be better than ours, so prove it.
Y'all just admit it. Bye. Make sure y'all follow us at What's Really Going On Pie, YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram.
Let the professional handle this. Thank you, everyone. This is season 4, episode 3. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts. That is WRGO Pod at Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Be sure to add all of us, depending on where we are on any platform. What does your plate look like? What is your favorite side? Be sure to like, listen, and subscribe on all of our platforms. That also includes YouTube, where you can watch this video and Henry's foolishness in full. Have a great and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.